Greatest of mornings, afternoons, or evenings, everyone. My name is Mario A. Reed, and I'm the managing law partner for the law offices of Mario A. Reed. I also refer to myself as the Education Esquire. And the reason why is because I have a commitment to educate. And that's what today's video is all about. So there are a lot of people who have been following along with the content that we offer both on the YouTube page and on my Facebook page of Mario A. Reed. And you've seen and heard a lot of information about the dividend paying funds. And I wanted to do a video which is dedicated to what it's all about and more importantly, how it all works. Because for a lot of people, we've never been introduced to purchasing any exchange trading fund and definitely not any of the dividend high yield paying funds. So this video is going to be dedicated to that. So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to take a look at the dividend paying income funds and their high yield dividend income paying funds that are available through a company called YieldMax. So I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to really quickly show you. Here's the YouTube page, which is the law offices of Mario A. Reed, the Education Esquire. This video is going to be posted on that YouTube page. So I just want to remind everyone, you can go, you can like, you can subscribe, and that's to be able to stay up to date with the different content that I'm making available. For the purposes of this video, we're now going to go to YieldMaxETFs.com. This page is the website of YieldMax, which is the company that offers these high yield dividend income paying funds that we talk a lot about during the knowledge movement. These are the funds that I personally use in order to fund my trust fund, which is my brokerage account that I currently have both with Robinhood as well as with Charles Schwab, E-Trade, and Merrill Lynch. I'm using these funds that are available through this company so that everyone is clear. YieldMax is a company that offers what are known as high yield dividend income paying funds, which are oftentimes also referred to as covered call funds or ETFs. You can then take a look at all of their funds by clicking on the triangle that has the YieldMax ETFs, and then you can scroll here where it says announcing new distribution schedules. Click here. Once you click there, it'll then bring up the distribution schedule for the groups as well as the weekly payers for the rest of the year. And you can take a look at the dates. That includes the declaration date, the ex-dividend date, and then the payment date. And I'm going to explain what those different dates are. For our purposes, we want to take a look at all of the different funds. So when you scroll down about 55% of the way through the page, it's going to bring you to this chart that shows you your weekly payers. These are the ETFs which are paying out every Friday. That's what's meant by a weekly payer. And then you're going to see the four different groups. You have Group A, Group B, Group C, and Group D. These groups pay out once every 4 weeks. And because there are 52 weeks in a year, you actually get paid 13 times. Sometimes you'll hear people refer to them as monthly payers, but technically they're not monthly payers because there aren't 13 months in a year, but you're going to get paid 13 times. So I like to refer to them as 4 week payers, and then that's more accurate. But whether you call them monthly or 4 weeks, that's how frequently they're paying, in so much where if there were 13 months, then that would be the monthly payers. So there's Group A, Group B, Group C, and Group D. And how these funds work is that you can purchase any of them that you want. So how you would do it is first you have to have a brokerage account. And you can open up a brokerage account through a variety of ways. You can open it up in person by going into a bank, such as Bank of America, to work with Merrill Lynch, or you can go into a Charles Schwab physical location, or you can open it up online or through your mobile app. Presently, I use Robinhood for the majority of my investing. And that's simply because they have a lot of great benefits. It's a phenomenal interface that's very user friendly, and they've set it up for younger people, 50 and under. But it's something that anyone can use. Doesn't matter what age you are. But again, the first step is you have to have a brokerage account. You got to have a way to be able to deposit money and then invest in these funds. And I want to point out that none of this is financial advice. As I always say at the Knowledge Movement sessions, I don't care what you do with your money. My goal is just to educate. So I'm hoping that someone sees this and now gets some information that they can go do their own research about and hopefully benefit in the way that I've been able to benefit, and so many others who have started down this path and journey. So back to YieldMax. We have this chart which shows all of the different funds. I'm going to be zeroing in on the fund of HOOY, which also happens to be for the company Robinhood. So to recap, YieldMax is a company that offers these covered calls, these ETFs, these high yield dividend income paying funds. One of the funds is HOOY. That's the stock symbol, also known as the ticker symbol, which you can use to purchase some of HOOY. Right now, HOOY stock performance is presently, this is not as up to the second, it was $62.22 as of the close, 3 p.m. Central Standard Time on Friday. But in after hours trading, it shot up to $65.50. And that's because Robinhood was recently announced to be joining the S&P 500. And because of that, the share price went up because investors are now excited. So more people are purchasing it, and that's how stock works. The more people who are excited about the stock, the higher the stock price. Even though HOOY isn't actually investing in Robinhood, that stock symbol is HOOD. It does follow the increases and the decreases of the underlying stock, which is Robinhood. And I know that's a lot to take in at once. I don't want you to get bogged down in the weeds of that, but just know that as Robinhood, the stock symbol HOOD does well, so will HOOY. When you purchase HOOY, you're not purchasing Robinhood, you're purchasing a covered call ETF, which tracks the performance of Robinhood and is selling stock options on Robinhood HOOD. That's an overview of how YieldMax works. So, and again, it's much deeper than that, but in order to not bore you, that's the reason why I'm taking that high level surface explanation. So HOOY is part of Group C. You then can scroll up, and everywhere that you see Group C, that's telling you when they're going to pay. August 20th was the declaration date. What the declaration date means is that that's the date that YieldMax declares how much they're going to pay in dividends per share for all of the funds which are part of Group C. So remember that long list of funds that was a part of Group C, which is ABNY, AMDY, CONY, and goes on and on. On August 21st, August 20th, YieldMax declared what amount they were going to pay as a dividend per share. That's what the declaration date means. It means YieldMax is declaring how much they're going to pay out per share of those funds. You have to have purchased shares by 3 p.m. Central Standard Time on that Wednesday. So if you wanted to get paid from HOOY on August 22nd, which is what's called the pay date or the payment date, you would have had to have purchased shares by 3 p.m. Central Standard Time on August 20th of 2025. The ex-dividend date or record date is the Thursday. Now, in order to have made it by the Thursday, that's why you need to have purchased by Wednesday at 3 p.m. because it's based on who owned it at the start of the day. And it's not even in early or pre-market trading. It's basically who owned it on Wednesday night. That's how this works. And trust me, I've been burned by trying to play the game of waiting until Thursday to get it. You have to have owned it by Wednesday at 3 p.m. You also want to check with your individual brokerage to see if maybe you need to have it sooner. But the moral of the story is, and with Robinhood, so long as you've purchased it by Wednesday at 3 p.m. Central Standard Time, you're then going to get paid on August 22nd. So you buy on Wednesday, and then the following Friday, you get paid a dividend. Now, a lot of people, myself included, just say, okay, perfect. After it is that I've gotten paid, I'll just sell it. And now I've made $5 per share. Well, the share price is also going to drop by whatever the dividend payout is. So let's say that the share price is $65.50. And then on coming up September 17th, YieldMax declares that they're going to pay a $5.50 dividend. Then what that means is on Wednesday night, in overnight trading, the share price is going to drop by $5.50. So now, instead of each share being worth $65.50, it'll only be worth $60. So even though you got paid the dividend payout, if you were to turn around and sell all your shares, you haven't necessarily made any money. The other drawback is that if you then sell your shares, and let's say that the stock price drops below $60, now you've lost money. So this isn't something where you're going to be able to typically cheat the system, or as it's called, chasing dividends. I learned it the hard way, and I like to share that experience just so people are fully aware as to the mistakes that I made. So now my goal is to just keep my shares and keep building up how many shares I have. So that way I continue to get a larger dividend payout on a monthly basis. So again, to recap, yieldmaxetfs.com is the website where you can go and you can review all of the different ETFs which are available. If you scroll down to the bottom, you can see the different funds. They have these weekly payers which pay every single week. So every Friday, you're getting a dividend payout. Now, with this, one of the things and the strategies which most people who consider this route go is with dividend reinvestment. And a lot of brokerage companies offer what's called dividend reinvestment program, which has an acronym of DRIP. So if you want to use DRIP, what will happen is that when you get your dividend payout, the funds that you receive will then be used to purchase more shares of whatever fund it is that you've purchased. So in my case, with having HOY, I'm going to show you what it looks like and what kind of return you could have possibly have gotten just in 4 months' time. 4 months almost to the day. So you'll remember that I mentioned that I was going to be talking about HOY. And remember, HOY is YieldMax Covered Call ETF that tracks Robinhood's performance. HOOY is the stock symbol for HOY, the YieldMax fund, whereas HOOD is the actual stock symbol for Robinhood. So there are two different stocks. One is the actual company of Robinhood, whereas the other is the YieldMax fund, which is selling stock options based on the stock symbol of HOOD. Now, I'm going to bring up an Excel spreadsheet, which was created by one of our Knowledge Movement members. Shout out to Mr. Williamson for doing an incredible job of creating this worksheet that allows for me to be able to quickly compute the performance of all of the funds. All you have to do is input the values. I'm going to be sharing this worksheet with all of the Knowledge Movements members who attend between now and October 29th. I'm going to be sharing it on my birthday, which is October 29th, with all of the people who have attended these workshops and provided us with an email address. So if there was ever an incentive to show up to the workshops between now and then, if you're interested in getting this worksheet, hopefully that will be your incentive. Now, for people to have a better understanding of this, I'm going to be using a sample investment, and I'm going to be using $100,000. Now, the reason why I'm using that, and a lot of people say, well, I don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars. In reality, you probably do have enough capital where you could start with 100,000, and that's through what's called leveraging. So just as a quick example, if you own a home and you've been paying your mortgage for 10 years, 15, 20 years, there's a good chance that you probably have over $100,000 worth of equity available as a part of your home. You can then go and do a cash out refinance in order to get your hands on that $100,000. And a lot of people will say, but yeah, I don't want to have the debt. I don't want my mortgage payment to go up. Well, if you take a look at what would happen if that money gets invested, it'll help you understand why it's not such a bad idea. But in this case, I'm going to use $100,000 because it's a round number. And number two, I want you to see the power of actually investing with a substantial amount of capital. So someone who took $100,000 and invested it back on May 8th of 2025 would have gotten 1,893.22 shares. In the month of May, Hoy paid out a dividend payout per share of $3.30 and 36 hundredth of a cent. So 3.3036 was the monthly payout, which resulted in a dividend payout of $6,254.45. So you put in $100,000 May 8th, and shortly thereafter, you got a dividend payout of $6,254.45. If you would have checked the box that says dividend reinvestment and reinvested these dividends, you would have then have been able to purchase a total of another 107 shares because the share price at that time increased to $58.41. So now you have a total share count of 2,000.30 shares. In the month of June, Hoy paid out a dividend payout of $6.50. That resulted in a new monthly payout of $13,007.96. And then we did the same thing again. We used that money to purchase new shares. And amazingly enough, Hoy's share price had now increased to $67.60. That resulted in getting a new 192.43 shares, which then brought our total share count to 2,192.73 shares. In the month of July, Hoy paid out a dividend payout of $6.89 per share, which then resulted in a dividend payout of $15,125.64. We did the same thing again. You got another 222.50 shares. In the month of August, Hoy paid out $3.85 per share, which resulted in a dividend payout of $9,314.08. And then we reinvested that money, and that got us to a new share count of 2,556.03. So over the course of exactly 4 months, because it'll be September 8th on tomorrow. So May to June, June to July, July to August, and August to September, 4 months. Exactly. We increased our share count from 1,893.22 shares to 2,556.03 shares. We started with 100,000. That was our initial investment. We now have 2,556.03 shares. So in order to figure out what our new value is, all we're going to do is break out a calculator. And I'm going to pull up a calculator so that everybody can see it, can see this computation while it's happening. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so remember, we now have 2,556.03 shares. And then we're just going to multiply that by the current share price, which is $65.50. So the new value of our HOOY total shares is $167,419.96. If the owner of these shares decided that they wanted to sell them as of Sunday evening tonight, when the market opens at 7 p.m., that's how much they would be able to sell their 2,556.03 shares for, which means that they would have gotten an appreciation of $67,419.96. So then in order to figure out what percentage that is, we just divided by $100,000. So that's a 67.419% increase in the span of just 4 months. That is the incredible power of these yield max funds. Now, there are a lot of people out there who will say, well, you could have just invested in Hood. Had you have taken that same 100,000 and actually invested in Hood, it more than likely would have appreciated by a greater percentage. And I do not doubt or refute that. I'll do you one better. Had you have invested in ROBN, you would have gotten twice the appreciation. This is in no way, shape, or form an advertisement or an endorsement or a recommendation to go and purchase the yield max funds. Because again, I don't care what you do with your money. My goal is just to educate, because prior to December of 2024, I had never heard of high yield dividend income paying funds. I didn't know that yield max funds existed, and I definitely didn't know and understand how they work. It was only by happenstance that I stumbled across them, and then based on um, my nature and my personality, I decided to invest in them, and it's worked out incredibly well for me. It's something that I'm very content with, and I'm looking forward to taking advantage of for a very long time. But I also understand that most people don't understand it. They haven't stumbled across it and just by happenstance. So the goal of this video is just educational. Now, in getting back to it, one of the reasons why I'm such a big fan of the Yield Max funds is because even though I've seen a 67% appreciation in just 4 months, if I purchased this fund back in May, the bigger and more important thing is that I now own, and I'm going to pull it up again so you can see, but I now own 2,556.03 shares. The average dividend payout for Hoy over the 4 payouts comes to $5.14.